Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and tonight is Thursday Night Draw Along, and I'm going to show you step by step of how to draw these very pretty daffodils. Daffodils are the month of March birthdays flowers, so we're going to look at these, and just in case you want to have a special birthday you want to draw something for, to give us a card, this would be a great card to do. It doesn't have to be a birthday card, of course. If you just love daffodils, it's soon to be spring here. A little while yet. I live in Minnesota, so we have a little bit ways to go yet before we have spring. But this will be, I'm going to walk you step by step. I'm going to show you a watercolor look is what I'm going to be doing. So this is the paper I like to use, the Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. It's considered a student grade, so that means it's reasonably priced, but it's a great paper. You can also use it for your acrylic paints, those types of things. You can do that as well. Good evening, Anne. Thanks for coming on tonight. So I'm just going to show you a simple way to draw it, easy to follow along. I'm going to just be using a regular old mechanical pencil. I like to use two different types of erasers if you're just starting your journey with watercolor. A polymer eraser, a nice one like this would be great. And then get yourself one of these gum erasers. They pick up the graphite really well for your drawing. So both of those erasers come in handy if you're doing watercolor, well, any kind of drawing. They're great for that. Well, let's go ahead and make me small and the picture big. Hello there, my friend. Deb, thanks for coming on this evening. You know, maybe we should try a different little bit. I never know if I should leave me in the picture or if I should take me on out. I'm going to be working on a 6x6. Oh, before I get too far, I wanted to say too, I do have a Ko-fi page. This is where you can get the tracers for my current draw-alongs that I do on YouTube and for my Facebook page as well. This is where you can find the tracers there. I have a small subscription there, reasonably priced, and it's just a good way to support my channel too if you're interested in that. Go over there and check it out. Now I'm doing a 6x6 size. This would be a great little size to frame, hang up in some place that you can kind of see it. If you have a cubicle, if you work during the day, or you have a cubicle space that you have an office or a home office, or even a coffee station might be kind of fun to hang this little drawing in, or do it as a card, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this off. This is kind of an idea of what the tracers look like that you would receive. You can print them off at whatever you have for a printer will work just fine. A black and white version, and I also give you the colored version too of one of mine, so you have a color reference to be able to go by. So I'm going to do a line down the middle and across here, and that's just going to help you see how big I'm making things and how to kind of position it. But you can use any size that you have. It's just something to kind of think about of how big I'm drawing things. Let's move this out of the way. Okay. I think we can see them both. I think we can see them both. All right, so let's start with this top flower here. Now, if you're going to make a card, you might want to go ahead and pencil in some lines where you're going to be writing your words. This one I don't think I'm going to be writing words on, but I just wanted to say if you are planning on writing words someplace, you might want to think about that before you draw your picture so you can kind of decide where your elements are going to be on there. But I'm still going to start with this flower here in the center, and I'm going to start with this shape here. I'm towards my center line. I'm up a little higher. I'm going to make this kind of a U shape, a bell shape right on to start my flower. So I'm going to come here, make this little bit of a bell shape and come up. Now this flower particularly, we're seeing more of the inside of it. So my bell's going to be a little shorter, not so long. Now we're going to create that little ruffly top, and it's going to come around. Just hold your pencil farther back so you can create that little ruffly pattern a little easier. You're going to be a little bit more loose. I'm going to carry it up a little higher. So there's my little bell shape on the top. Then I'm going to drop in a little bit of a smile face. That's just going to be a reference so that you're looking down into the flower. Now this is a very loose, easier, kind of simple daffodil. We're not getting too futzy with this one, but we're still going to add a little bit of structure so we have a little idea of flowers are turning different directions. So this one's going this direction. Now let's go ahead and start building our petals. Now for the petals of the daffodil, there are 6. I'm going to start with these 3. I'm going to go this one, and the one behind. Those are the ones that are kind of, these 2 are sitting on top of this one. So I'm going to start with this one and this one back here. So I'm going to start off to my side. I'm going to come here. I'm going to roll this past my middle line here. I'm going to come out. Now these aren't too pointed of a leaf or a petal. They're going to have just a little bit of a point, but a rounded look to them. And then I'm going to bring this back. I might want to make this a little bigger. Every time I do this, I always do them differently. They never look the same twice, the same way, and they don't really have to. So each time we do them, we can do them differently. Now I'm going to pop over here and I'm going to be working on this one here. So I'm going to come out this direction because there's going to be one in the middle. We're going to come over here. So these are the two that are going to be sitting on top. Now let's find that third one. This is going to be way in the back. And because we're way in the back, we're not going to see a lot or the whole petal. I'm going to be starting kind of in the center of my ruffly bit here. I'm going to come out and then I'm going to shorten it. I'm not going to come way out this direction. I'm going to come around and then touch back around. So let's start. Let's find my center here. It's going to be shorter, not as long. We're going to come to a tip. And then we're going to round it around a little bit where I'm going to be seeing some of the back and stop right there. So I have my 3 built. Now let's go ahead and add our other 3. So the next one I'm going to do is this one here in the center. And all we're going to see is the down point here and touch. These ones are going to be on top. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to come down. Now this one is, I am drawing it smaller. I can already tell. So I'm going to make my leaves my petals a little bit shorter. All right, I could make it bigger. I could make it bigger. I'm drawing in pencil, right? We can do anything we want to. We can change it up if we want to. Now let's draw the 2 next ones on each side. So I'm going to start here on this one, come out, and I'm going to be going out that direction. Now let's do this one. So this one's kind of pointed up a little bit, so we're not going straight out this way. We're going to be drawing it up. So I'm going to come this direction, and we're going to head up to a point, and then we're going to come back down, and we're going to dead end into that top, that ruffly part of our daffodil. Okay, so there we have our 6 little petals on, and our shape is already got it. So we already have our first little one done. Now let's come over here. We're going to work on this one now, and it's facing sideways to your left. So composition wise, it's always good to have some changing different directions or looking different directions. So this one is going up more. We're seeing more of that underneath piece. This one we're going to be seeing more to the side. So we're going to come here first, start with our ruffly bits. So I'm going to start, I've kind of got it up above my center line, just a tiny bit. And that's not really all that important either. You can draw yours whatever and however. So I got my little ruffly bits. Now I'm going to see more of my flower up here. Here we had it tucked underneath where we saw more rufflies out to the side. This one we're going to see it come off to the top to our ruffly bits here. Then we're going to bring in our bell shape. We're going to come over here to the side because we're seeing more of the side of our flower. And then we're going to come down. All right, let's go ahead and start with our 2 that are off to the side again. So we're going to start here. Let's start this direction. We're coming down. We're going to come over here, make another one this direction. Now, if you run into that one, that's fine. You can make it look like it's behind. Now, let's just drop this one right in the front. Let's just drop it right in there. Now to this one, we're going to come back one. So we got 1, 2, 3. The 4th one, or that one that's behind, we're not going to really see a lot of, and neither of this one here. So we're going to make it shortened. We're going to come out, and then we're just going to kind of square it off a little bit and then come down because we're not seeing the whole petal back there. And let's come over here on this side. And we'll make a little shorter one. And then this one we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll probably just see a little part of this one. Back there would be the 6th petal. So there we have the petals up. Now they're going to have these little centers. We won't see that little curve because we're not looking so deep into there, but we are going to see the little seeds. They're going to come up just a little bit, or the stamens, or whatever that little part of the flower is called. I'm not for sure. And this one here, we need to put these in too. So I forgot those last time. We're going to come into that little hole area and put them in there. So now we have our next one done. So let's come over here and do this one. So this is going to be the opposite direction. This one is a little bit below my center line. I'm going to start with my little ruffly bits. I'm just going to come, I'm holding my pencil a little bit farther back, so I'm a little loose with my drawing. Then let's put the bell in, and we're seeing more of the side. So we're going to come out farther and then come in and then drop it down. like that. Let's start with our two side ones. So this one here, I did make this one in front. You could make it behind if you wanted to. If you're going to make it behind, you can just start here off to the side, do the same thing, come out, over, down, and then let's start here, down this way and over. Now to do this one that's farther back, we're going to start up a little higher. Now this one, I drew it a little bit bigger. I need to switch this. I have to make this shorter, or my my petals are going to be too big, and I'm not going to get that in there. Good catch. Usually I catch that like after I do it. And then it's like, whoops, I needed to switch that. Okay, so now let's try this again. Here we go. There's the one off to the side. There's the two. Let's put that third one in there. That, let's come up here, make the next one over. Okay, so we've got another one there. Let's do the next one, this direction. And then we're just going to see a small bit right there. Okay, so count them up. Make sure you got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's pretty much the key. The ruffly bits like that at the top. And then your 6 petals. And then of course, when we make them the color that they are, that's just going to read that it is a daffodil. So let's go ahead and pop in the little seeds like this. Okay, so now I have pretty much my card built out for the daffodil parts. A little bit need to be a little bit rounded, not too pointy. If it gets too pointy, I was starting thinking in my mind, it's like, oh, those kind of have poinsettia leaves on there. So I don't want them too pointy. Okay, there we go. I'm going to loosen it up a little bit and not be so exact because we're doing a loose watercolor. Now let's go ahead and pop some of these other little buds in. And these little buds here are just 3 little, if you think about like a daisy kind of, these are like the little petals before they come open. This is a little ruffly bit here of my center. So I'm going to start with my little ruffly bit. And the one thing about the daffodil, these buds, kind of a critical point, is that they go up, but then they point down. So if you want to start with your little ruffly bit, you can just start with a little ruffly bit right there. Just pop that in. And then come down with your first petal, pointed, pointed, pointed. That's all there is to it. The bulb on the end has a little bit bigger end right there. So we're going to have just a little bit of a bulbish area there. And then it's got to come down. So we're going to have a bend. So it's got to have a little bit of a bend as it's coming down. And then that's just going to read like it's a daffodil. So as long as it's got that bend in there, it's going to have that daffodil filling. Now I have a spot here that I'm going to do a closed bud. So that one I'm going to be pointing. It's kind of like a cigar. If we think about it that way, it looks like a little cigar. And it's just going to have a little bit of a twist here at the top where it's closed. And then again, we got to make that hook that's coming down. There we go. So we have our little buds facing the right direction. Follow down as you go down through your drawing, like so, to bring it down to wherever it might land. Wherever you bump into your flower, just pick your pencil up and go around. Okay, so we have those parts done. I'm going to do some erasing of my guidelines here before I pop the rest of my leaves in. And then once we get the rest of the leaves put in, we're going to be ready to do some painting. Now this would be a pretty painting done in acrylic paint. It'd be a great pencil sketch done in colored pencil would be beautiful. I haven't done a lot of chalk pastel, but I think it would make a gorgeous pastel painting too. I love all the art things. Who else loves all the art things? It's hard for me to just settle on one thing to work on or use, but I love all the art material, and I do love watercolor because well, let's just be honest, I'm kind of a little lazy. I can pop out, open up this whole thing of paint, and I have all of these colors, and I only need one box. So that's one of the reasons why I do love watercolors, because I can just pop open the box and have all those watercolor. So let's add in a few little leaves. Some stylistic ones that might make it feel more like a daffodil is if they come up and then they point over. So if they have a little bit of a jog in them, they can have a little bit wider bottom, a little bit wider, and then they get thinner as they go up. So just add a few of those in. And I'm going to start here with this one. I'm going to do kind of a, I wanted to show you that too. If you think of some of the daffodils, they have this unusual bottom where it almost looks like a dropper. It kind of reminds me of one of those little droppers where you have the bulb at the end of your dropper and then it gets skinny again. That's what it reminds me of. So you might want to add a little bit of a look like that on maybe one of the bottom ones that you can kind of see. So I'm going to add that little bulbous area and then get thinner and then arch my stem just a little bit like that. It's just going to give it a little bit more of a daffodil feel. Now this one I wouldn't be able to see the bottom, so I'm just going to do a regular thin stem, whatever it might make sense. So look to see where maybe the center of your flower is to line that up. This one here, I'm just going to look to see where my center is. Invisible line, I'm not even touching until I get to a point where I can run into something or opened spot that makes sense to put my little stem in. So just check to see where your middles are, and that'll give you an idea of where your stem should be. And actually this probably should be moved over just a tiny bit. Let's see, here's the center right here. So maybe I wouldn't even see that little bulbish point. Whoops, my pencil's all falling apart. Oh my goodness, my lead fell out. I'll just scoot that over there. Hopefully I have lead in my pencil that it all didn't fall out. So let's see where the center is. I'm going to just do lightly and then kind of just draw from that point. That will be a better area. Okay, pencil, cooperate here. We'll just trade. Okay, so this is where I would see it. So I'm probably not going to see that little bulbous part for this one. Now let's go ahead and pop in some bigger ones. I'm probably going to go reverse this time. So I'm going to come up this direction, so I make sure I'm having in that down point and then come down this direction. So I'm building my leaf this direction, and as I'm going down I'm getting wider, and wherever that may cross over is where that might end. So I have a little filling there. I think I'm going to pop in another one here, and I'm going to do kind of a reverse over there too. Glad to see the lead fell out of your stencil me for well, you know why it happens to me, Deb, is because this pencil has a different eraser than what it actually comes with, because I don't like the eraser that this particular pencil comes with, but I have other erasers on a different pencil that I like better, that is more like an eraser like this. So I've tried to steal them and put them on this pencil, but they don't quite fit. So that is one of the reasons why they're falling out. So I've caused my own problem. It wouldn't do that if I had the right eraser in there. Okay, so let's take a look here. What I got going on. Do I have enough filling? Last time when we did the pansies, I believe, you know, I've had the hardest time keeping pansy and poppy, and now I'm so thankful that this was a daffodil, a complete different letter. I kept on calling pansies poppies and poppies. So anyway, Gloria, who follows along and draws, she did a beautiful little butterfly, purple butterfly, and her pansies, which was really a nice addition. So maybe this would have maybe a bumblebee. You might want to add a little bumblebee in there or something like that, or another pretty little black and white, black, white, and yellow, like the swallowtail. Is that what they're called? The swallowtail butterflies. Maybe one of those would be really pretty in here too. So you can always add more things to your drawing. So now is when I'm going to take my eraser, my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to go over my drawing. I'm not going to do extra pencil work, but I am going to come in at the end, or extra ink work is what I meant to say. I'm not going to do extra ink work, but I am going to come in at the end and do a little extra pencil work if my paper is dry enough. So I need to just lighten these lines for my drawing. That's what these erasers work really, really well for, is that. And I've already gotten my my paints already moistened. So these little mister little bottles are really great for wetting your watercolor. If you travel and your box has room for it, you can always stick it in your watercolor box if you like to sketch and paint with watercolor while you're traveling. It makes a great little tool for that. I'm going to be using the Rubens set tonight, just the Paul Rubens set tonight. It's kind of a medium quality paint, not your super, super expensive paint, and a little bit above a grade of student grade. Now for this one, if you think about doing your petals, and I probably will try it reverse way this time, is that if you go figure that 3 are going to be darker and 3 are going to be lighter, that will help set up a little bit more interest in your flower if you shoot for that. So I'm going to try, and I'm going to reverse it this time. So I'm going to make these ones the light ones and these ones the dark ones and see what it looks like. I just need a contrast. I thought what happened with these when I did them is by having this dark against the dark, even though it's not quite the same, there's not enough contrast necessarily. And I want a little bit more contrast between those. So we're going to try that and see what that looks like. So I'm going to start with a bright yellow first. And with watercolor, you always start light and then work your way dark. So I have this little palette that works great for watercolor. I'm just going to start here with my brightest yellow. Those who are watching, or if you even watch the replay, if you have a March birthday or if you celebrate someone else's birthday in March, pop in the comments March. I'd be interested to know. We have a few birthdays in our family that are March birthdays. Okay, so I'm going to start with my leaves. So this time I'm going to do light here. Now when you start this, try to leave some of your whites of your paper showing. With watercolor, it's a little unusual medium where it's preferred to have a little bit of your substrate showing on your paper. Those are going to be your brightest, whitest whites. So I'm going to do those bright. This one's going to come in here, bright, like that. So my paper was dry when I put these on, so my color will stay put wherever I put it. Now if I come in here and I add and I paint in this spot, if I make that area wet, my colors are going to blend together because watercolor is going to travel wherever your paper is wet. So if this area is wet and those areas are wet, your colors are going to go together, which it doesn't really make a difference when some paintings, but other ones you'll want to let that area dry before you add your next one on. Hello, Kiri. Thanks for coming on, sweet friend. Good to see your name pop up. Okay, so I'm mixing to about tea consistency, which means there's more water, less pigment. That's your lightest shades you're going to start with. So this one now I'm going to do a light here. The part's going to be light. And this one will be light. Okay, and then this one's going to be light back here. Now they're all still golds and yellows, so even if they did mix together with this particular painting, it's not going to really make too much of a difference. Even if you wanted to switch what the color of maybe you wanted the dark ones the opposite, like the original way I did it, it doesn't really make a difference. It just kind of helps make your painting pop a little bit more if you switch up the colors just ever so slightly. So I'm going to let that dry just a tiny bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix my, pick up my orange, and I'm going to put that here in the middle. So I have my orange going on. I'm going to remix. I have another color that's right next to it. Let's see if I can't find my color card. So these are the orange families that I have, are the yellows and the oranges that I'm going to be working with. This yellow here kind of has some green in it, so I didn't know if I really wanted to use that color. So I'm going to kind of stick with these two colors here. And I can actually make my own colors by maybe adding a little bit of the orange into this color. I could still use that bright yellow if I wanted to, but I just like, well, it's kind of got a little bit of green in it, so I might not use that one. So let's pop over. Here's another orangish color. And hopefully you can see that there's a difference. So this one has more yellow in it. This has just a tish bit more orange in it. And then this one even has more. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do my darkest one. So I'm going to come in here. It's had a little bit of time to dry, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to lay that next darker color in. I'm going to try to leave a little bit of white in that one. There we go. Let's come in here. Now you can notice the contrast is really strong now, but I'm going to be layering another shade of yellow on top of that first yellow I did. So we're going to be adding the layers. With watercolor, it's all about the layering and the translucent quality of the watercolor. So take your time, layer your colors. Usually I figure a light, a dark, and a medium, or medium, a light, a medium, and a dark. Goodness gracious, get my colors the right way. Is what I usually figure for how many layers I'm going to be putting on. And each layer makes a difference. Put that in there. Okay, let's come in here. And if you want to think about, if you had a light source, you could think about where would my brightest ones or my lightest ones be. So if you're thinking like your light source is coming from there, where would the shadows be on your flowers? You can think about that, go a little bit farther and think about how and where your shadows might be. Or you could just practice your layering of your colors and how your watercolor works and how it works with your paper. There's a lot of things to learn that is different. If you're used to painting with acrylics, watercolor is going to be completely different. Watercolor dries lighter as it dries. Acrylic paint dries darker, a slight shade darker. This we're painting the shadows, and normally when you're painting acrylic paint, you are painting the highlights. So you're going to start dark and then work your way light. So it's an opposite feeling of painting than if you're used to painting with acrylics. It's going to be a different little type of mind thinking about where your colors need to go. But once you get used to it and you practice, it is kind of fun. I do have a few people on here who have been painted with me for quite a few years, and they learned with me for watercolor. Okay, so let's put in a little bit more of that yellow. So now I'm okay if some of my bright yellow gets into that orange because it's all in the same color family. And I'm going to pop in another, but I don't want to cover up everything that I put on because remember, those are my highlights that are underneath there. But I know this one would be in shadow, so I can darken that up fairly well. But I still want to leave some of those bright spots of yellow showing from my first layer. Okay, let's go ahead. This one probably be pretty light because it's getting most of my light back there. Just tap it in here. Welcome, welcome to those who might be new. If you're watching, well, everybody's watching from YouTube tonight. If you wouldn't mind throwing me a thumbs up, that'd be great. YouTube loves it when you could give a thumbs up. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just take clear water now, and I'm going to put that on this one. So I'm going to just paint this with clear water, and then I'm going to pick up some of that middle orange that I have here, and I'm going to tap a little bit of that in, and in the inside too. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of that orange, and I'm just going to tap that color in. And because my paper underneath is wet and my color that I'm putting on is wet, it's going to do the blending and the work for me. So I'm going to let that sit and see what it does. Now, if it starts to dry and there's a lot of dry lines or harsh lines, or if your puddle is way too big, take your brush, rinse it off, give it a squeeze in my paper towel to create a dry brush or a thirsty brush. And then I can come in here and I can push my paint around. I can actually lift some up if I needed to, like if I have way too much color in there and I needed to lift it a little bit. I can do that. Another way you can lift color with watercolor is take a paper towel and touch your paper and lift it up. Okay, so let's continue on. So I'm going to come here and just paint it with a little bit of water. I have a little bit of color still left in there from what I had just done, but mostly water. I'm going to take my orange, my middle orange, my one that color, tap it in there, pick up my darker orange, and then tap, tap, tap that color. Okay, I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to take my brush, push and pull a little bit. There we go. All right, let's get some clean water for that last one. Hi, Gloria. Thanks for coming on tonight. It's good to see your name pop up. Now we're going to come right in here. I was just talking about your pansy card and how you added that really pretty butterfly to your pansy picture, and it just added so much to it. Okay, so let's come in here, get that next darker color, that middle one. And then let's add that darker orange color into there. Tapping it in, letting that color just kind of blend into each other. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that darker orange that I've got here, but I'm going to mix a little bit more water in there. So I'm going to have even thinner than tea consistency. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to tap some of that in to my darker, or that dark petal that was there. Those ones, I'm going to tap that on just a little bit, but I'm not wanting it to cover up all of that bright orange. And again, if you get hard lines in there, you can always do that thirsty brush again, or use your paper towel and pick up some of your color. So I'm going to add a little bit more contrast to that darker orange coming on there. Oops, let's see. I'm going to mix that a little bit more, a little bit thinner. Okay. They're a pretty flower. I do really love the happiness quality of these little flowers. Now I'm noticing my center one here is kind of drying really light. So I'm going to pick up some more of that. I'm going to start with this orangier one. I'm a little afraid if I start with my darkest one, I might get too dark. Let's go ahead and pop some of that in there and just brighten up that flower just a tiny bit. I'm going to do the same thing here too. Okay, and then add a little bit more. As it's drying, you can see, is there too much contrast? Like these ones are too light compared to the next ones to it. You might have to add a little bit more of color to it to make it so it's not so contrasty. It's that little dance back and forth about adding colors on and taking colors away. But they are pretty little flowers. Happy little spring flowers. Okay, pretty. Let's see if we can't add, now these ones are a little bit darker. We're going to see how they're going to dry for me. We'll see what they dry like. They're a little bit darker than my original ones. So for my leaves, I'm going to use a green. Hi, Judy. Thanks for coming on. I did like it, Gloria. It was so much fun to see that butterfly there. And so many other people liked it too. There were so many like buttons or pushed heart buttons on that one. I'm going to use this color, Hooker Green. You know, it's one of my favorites. I like that color. So I'm just going to put some of that into my little tray over here. Mix some of that up. This is kind of like the perfect little plant color. I'm going to start with tea consistency for this as well. Now you do have to take we're kind of moving a little fast here. Maybe I should do, let's see, I forgot about those buds. Let's do those buds. Let's do those buds. Kind of forgot about that. I got working ahead of myself. I bet you were wondering, is she going to do those other ones? Let's do it a little bit light of a wash, and let's do just like a little color here. And let's do, this is going to be green up a little bit there. I'm going to take a little bit of my orange, tap it in there. So this is going to be more of a wet on wet. So I'm going to let the colors just do their own thing and be a little bit more loose with it. Okay, see how that dries, how that plays out. Now if you think you got too much color on there, rinse your brush out, give it a squeeze, and then you can lift some of your color if you think you need to try to lift some of it out, just to vary it a little bit. Okay, so now this is the point. If you need to wait a little bit before your picture's dry enough, before you add the green in, because if it's not dry enough, when you add that green in there, wherever you touch, wherever's wet, that green is going to go into that area. Sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't, but just something to keep in mind. Is your color dry enough to go? Now this paper is a student grade paper, so it's going to dry quick, a lot more quick than say an Arches watercolor paper that has a lot more cotton in it. This one will dry a lot sooner than that. So we're going to put this in again. If you can leave a few little highlights, maybe just at the tip, come in, just do a little stroke, leave some little highlights on there. Looks always pretty if you can. Let's see, what do we got going here? Now I have to remember where my lines are. I did erase them very well today. Okay, so this is going to be thicker down here. for those who are watching, if you're new to watercolor or are you experienced with watercolor. I do have quite a few people who are just new to watercolor coming in or new to drawing, and I'm so glad you're here and you're taking a little art break for yourself and trying something new and enjoying the process of learning how. The more you practice these skills, because I always say that drawing is for everyone. It's not just for some, it's for everyone. And it just as a matter, it's just a skill. Like anything, the more you practice it, the better you're going to get. So if you want to learn how to draw, you can. It is just something that's a matter of training your eye a little bit, of looking at shapes that you might see, and then just practicing it and coming along and drawing with me weekly. I go live twice a week. And if you come in and just join along with that, and sometimes it just gives you a reason or a subject to draw, and it's a fun group that comes in and enjoys it with us. And it's just a fun place to hang out and just practice your skills and have a fun little subject to do. Okay, so this is where I decided my little thing there. So I promise, if you practice or you come in and you do this, if you start doing it twice a week, you're going to be surprised at how quickly your skills are going to grow. Now you can see how I have a little bit of variation in my green, and that's just happening naturally by the stroking it and putting it on. And then you can let that dry just a tiny bit more. Add a thicker amount, so less water this time inside of that green, a little bit more pigment, more kind of like a milk consistency. Then you're going to get a darker, stronger color. So I'm going to come in here and add just a darker shade on the one side and create some contrast by adding even a darker area on the one side. This is just a number 6 Princeton Velvet Touch brush. It's a round brush. It's a water brush. But what's really nice about these little water brushes, even though they're not that expensive, it's a synthetic brush. It's got a great little round tip on it. It's going to spring back well when you're painting. So when you push down on it, it's going to come back to a point. And doing these small little paintings like this, that works perfect for doing that, because you really do want a brush that's going to hold a nice tip for you to be able to create these little paintings like this. That'll be very helpful. So I believe I bought mine at Michael's, I think is where I purchased mine. I've had them for a while, so I forget where I got them from. I'm sure you can buy them online easily enough at any art store. But the number 6 and the number 10 is the sizes that I own. I might actually buy one that's a smaller one, like go down maybe to a 4, just for a tinier one. But I don't do large paintings, so these work perfect for me. Now what I plan on doing is we're going to do a little bit of splitter splatter with this as well. But what I wanted to do is show you how you can come back in with just a pencil, providing I have my lead in here. Let's see if I can find with a lead. Because you can come back in. Now my paper might not be dry enough, and I might have to show you on this one if I hold it close. You can come back in with your pencil, hold it a little bit farther away, and then just kind of do some more detail work with your pencil and add a little bit more line work that way. If you enjoy doing colored pencils, you could come in and add a little bit more detail with your colored pencils and turn it into more of like a mixed media piece, because it would no longer just be watercolor. But you can sketch around it and create a little bit more depth that way and add those details on there. Now I also went into the middle after it was dry, and I used a gold pen. The Deco Color Gold is kind of a nice pen. And I popped in a few of those, a little bit of gold on the stamen parts, the little, I think that's what they're called, that little part on there. So if you go in too early with your pencil, it's not going to draw as well. So if your paper's more dry, then your pencil work will be a little bit more, you'll see it more, and it won't just disturb your paper. This pencil that I use is a 0.7, the lead. It's just a little bit smaller. If I could find one that was a zero, even a smaller lead, I'm going to buy that one too, because I want even a smaller lead pencil. Let's see what we got going here. So we'll see if I can come back in, and then I can re-emphasize my little ruffly bits a little bit. But this would be a great area too to do colored pencils. I don't have them out tonight, but if you had colored pencils, this would be a fun one to add some extra interest that way. Or Gloria's watching tonight. She loves to use her gel pens, and Carrie's on. She likes to use her gel pens too. So this would be a nice little opportunity to use some gel pens. But I did like the idea of using just a pencil with just a regular HB lead and adding some interest that way. And often, because I'm a scribbler, I like to scribble. I don't need to follow exact, and I can loosen it up and add some detail that way. And I'm going to put a little bit of splitter splatter in here too. Now, if you were going to write or make this a card or add a little saying on it, hopefully you've kind of planned out where you want your words beforehand. Otherwise, if you have enough space at the top, you can easily add that in there. Crayon Diache pencils, the ones, they do have the water soluble ones that you could use there, and they also make ones that are not water soluble, and those are fun too to add a little bit of extra detail. I know I have people who follow me who are mixed media people, and you do have all of those fun art materials, and sometimes we forget that we have them and we need to get them out and use them and not just keep them in the box. They do us no good inside of our art boxes. Okay, so let's add a little bit of splitter splatter to this. So I'm going to take a little bit of brown. This set, I do like the browns in, so I'm going to use the browns here. This Rubens set does have some pretty browns. I do have more of a student grade set that I always am complaining about how I do not like the browns. Let's use burnt sienna. So that's 1, 2, 3 over here. I'm just going to make a nice little puddle of color here. I'm going to take this color, I'm just going to do it in my lid, make it nice and washy. I bumped up to my number size 10 brush, so it's a little bit bigger brush. Put that in there, water it down nicely, definitely no thicker than ink. And then I'm going to do a little bit of my green too. So I'm going to take some of that hooker green, mix that nice and light. Okay, so now I have those nice and loaded my brush pretty well with those. My background is dry, and that does make a difference. If your background's wet, your dots will be more of, they're going to spread out. It's just like watercolor. When you put it on the water, it's going to spread out. If your paper is dry, you're going to have more of a harder dot pattern, which is what I was kind of looking for this one. I'm going to come in and then pop it, a little bit of my brown in. Now you can come in with clear water, just clear water, and you can pop over top again, and where that clear water hits your spots where you have them, it's going to soften them out. So it's like having that wet paper underneath, but not everywhere. Okay, and then we're going to let that dry, and as it dries, those dots will look differently. So they're going to have more of that type of a pattern in the background, which looks great. Looking so beautiful. You're liking it. I'm glad, Judy. I'm glad you're liking it. So we'll see how that dries and what that looks like as it dries. And like I said, I don't have my colored pencils, but I might come in afterwards and add a little bit of colored pencil work, or some of my Woody Stabilo pencils. Get those out and try those too. All right, that is it, my friends, for tonight. I keep on thinking I'm going to get in my studio for a Sunday afternoon and do some acrylic painting with you and come on and do something like that. I want to take one of my watercolors and show you how you can easily do it into an acrylic painting. So I need to get that done. So here's the two, and I always say, you know, they're not twins, but they could be sisters, right? They can match, and they don't have to match. They don't have to match at all. They can always look different. So that is it for tonight, and hopefully I will see, well, I'll be back definitely on next Tuesday. I always go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I love it when you come and join me. If you do one and you would like to share it, if you go onto my Facebook page, which is Painting Crafty as well, there'll be a picture with this advertising the live on there. Pop it underneath there, and then I love sharing your things because it's always great to see your ideas. Paintings don't have to look like mine to be good. We all have different ways that we do things, and we have different ideas of what we like to do. So I love sharing your ideas too, because you inspire somebody else to try as well. Thanks everyone for joining in, and you have a great evening. Bye now.